So we've got a question this week. We put out the call for a mailbag questions and topics, suggestions, etc. And we got one from our very own Eric Q. Thank you very much for that. And we're actually going to split it into two because the question is what are we hoping to see in NBA Live 18 and what are we hoping to see at EA Play now that the trailer's out and we're obviously getting hyped for the game. We've got the NBA Live 18 section set up in the forum and the 2K18 section for that matter because we are approaching the previous season, and it's time to split it into those sections so we can talk about the previews and the news and the speculation, etc. But because EA Play is going to be next week, and we're going to have another show in between now and EA Play, we'll probably talk about, well, we are definitely going to talk about EA Play, speculator on EA Play, I should say, next week. This week we'll just talk about what we're hoping to see in Live 18. Next week we'll talk about what we're going to hope to see at EA Play. So, yeah, well, we have talked a little bit about it before, but we have seen a glimpse of NBA Live 18, as we said on last week's show. First the unofficial glimpse, and then the trailer and the first official screenshots. You can go back and listen to our opinions on that. You can also find it on our YouTube channel, of course, youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center, where we post excerpts of the NLSC podcast. You may be listening to it on YouTube right now. If so, thank you. Please subscribe. So, what are we hoping to see in NBA Live 18, Ben?
For me, just a few simple things in terms of, things that we've discussed in previous podcasts. For me, just greater variety animations, smoother, less robotic, stiff animations, interesting and deeper game modes. Just sort of something that, just adds to that variety element to it. In terms of, I feel like playing something a little bit different as opposed to just the normal standard 5-on-5 stuff. And then obviously, one draw card has to be stable online. I think it, it's a must in terms of things. So yeah.
I mean, we talked about it. I think you might have missed the show. Kenny and I might have talked about it. The approach to NBA Live 18, whether it should be more of a traditional approach, whether they should look at that offline experience and really cater to that old school crowd that maybe feel a little bit disenfranchised with some of the online stuff that 2K has done, while at the same time catering to the online crowd. But absolutely, I mean, you're going to have the online, you're going to have live pro-am, I would imagine, so it definitely has to be stable and have all the expected features, play with friends, maybe even some squad options, I don't know. I do like what they've did with Live Pro-Am, but I also like the squads that we do with 2K Pro-Am.
I'm the same. I mean, but I love the fact that, that you didn't have to have a minimum of 3 guys. I did like that because there's a few times where it was just you and I, but we weren't able to play, so as a result of playing the park. So
which hasn't always gone very well. We might mention. Well, the minimum 2 is definitely great, and also being able to play against the CPU, multiplayer against the CPU. That's a really great idea.
The fact that you're playing, NBA players as opposed to just random generic created players that, where you don't know if you're going to get a decent one or one that's like got a basketball IQ of a rock.
A rock, yeah. And not, The Rock might be better. He has a background in football and professional wrestling, not necessarily basketball. But I'm sure even he would be better than some of the rocks that we get. The rocks for brains we get as the AI teammates in 2K Pro-Am sometimes. Absolutely, and if you can't find a matchup, you just being able to play with friends against the CPU, do the challenges, and as you also said, getting the NBA players in there really puts the pro in Pro-Am. It really embraces that Pro-Am aspect to the name, really.
And I liked with Live's Pro-Am, the different venues and stuff that added an element of cool.
The authentic stuff, and I believe they're going to have the Drew League. It's certainly, that was confirmed. EA hasn't really commented on it yet, but the actual commissioner of the Drew League, I believe, has come out and said that, and other things. And Rucker Park and all those historic and famous basketball venues for all those Pro-Am leagues and everything, and street ball. Yeah, no, it is fantastic. So I'm happy to see, well, presumably all of that in the game again this year. I definitely agree on the fluidity of the animations, both in appearance and in the feel of the game. You don't want the robotic controls or the animations that need to look stiff and robotic, and also that is we need them to not look stiff and robotic, but also to feel good, to look good and feel good on the sticks. That's crucial. Live is actually pretty solid when it comes to strategy and X's and O's. I think one of the big things as far as realism is concerned is probably physicality in the paint, because it's pretty easy to dunk in NBA Live 16, and you really don't stop plays in the paint unless you get a block. And although we've complained about 2K's layups and dunks at times, 2K17 that is, at least you have that physicality in the paint, like in real life, that you can't just go and bull into the paint and go for the layup. You might get injured. At the very least, you have to throw up a wild shot because you're going to run into a brick wall when the paint is packed. So having that physicality and the defense being able to make an impact, I think. But I think it was Gaming Tailgate did put out some information or some information has come out on along with the trailer about what to expect in Live 18, like a preliminary features list, and they did talk about defense being a lot more impactful and fun to play. So that's promising, because I think that's very important.
Yeah, for sure. There's like, yeah, it's sometimes one of the things in games that kind of gets ignored in terms of things, or because they want to emphasize the scoring and fun element. So to have that where defense is a priority in terms of things, or has been worked on, and can be fun, instead of where it's like everyone just results to playing like James Harden because it's there's no point playing it because it is so
and also defense without necessarily getting a statistic, so you're not having the inflated blocks or steals, but you're still bothering the defense into a bad shot, or forcing them, being able to force a shot clock violation or force a turnover, force them to make an error, throw the ball out of bounds. That kind of defense, and really interrupt the play, not just resulting in the block and steal. Like that, you can stop a team from scoring by forcing a bad shot without having to block the shot, and then of course compete for the rebound naturally. Otherwise, give up the offensive board and give up the second chance, potentially. But certainly having that, definitely agree with that on, and again the fluidity of all the controls there. Also agree on the game modes. It's really overdue to get a little bit more depth into Dynasty. The things that have been in previous games that haven't been in Dynasty since 14 definitely need to come back. A little bit more in Rising Star. Whatever the one is, that's intriguing as well. So we'll see what that's about. We'll see that at EA Play, but we'll talk a little bit more about that next week. And roster editing. I would love to see that. And if it's not in the game, it's going to be a real disappointment to people. So that's something that EA really needs to find a way to add this year. Even if they can add it post-release, as a patch, as free DLC, patch it in. That's really crucial to have. So that'd be my pitch to EA. On top of everything else to work on, make sure that roster customization is in there.
Yeah, I think that's a must. An important thing is it would just allow for people who want to create custom rosters, or from like draft picks to for coming up for drafts, or just even like in like Dynasty mode stuff where they want to throw in their friends, like we used to do with our Dynasty stories and stuff like that. Keep people engaged and interested, and as a way to follow the thing, because they want to see how they performed as well as see how the story goes that the people. So yeah, that's one thing I'm hoping as well.
And it's also a way that between the official updates, look, Live I feel does a pretty solid job with the roster updates, and I know Erica's was working on it the year before last, the 2016 season I should say, and she was taking feedback on Twitter and everything, and I'm sure that's still going to be a thing. But sometimes in between the roster updates, if there is a mistake, if there's a jersey number that's missed, or a position that's wrong, or a lineup that's outdated or something, or a trade happens in between the roster updates, it's great to be able to do that ourselves and make that change to play with those rosters, so you don't have to wait for the official update. So that's why you absolutely need the roster customization. We had it back in the day, and that was great that you could keep the game up to date yourself. And even when they started doing the official roster updates, you could still update the game yourself and play with those rosters in between the official updates, as I said. So, no, it's definitely something that needs to be done. And if it's not in the cards for the launch, I would definitely advocate finding a way to get it in post-release, kind of like what they did with the practice mode in Live 14. It's just so crucial, and so many people want it. Like, it's very crucial to some people to have that in the game to the point where some people are saying no customization, no buy.
Yeah.
I mean, if the other stuff is really up to scratch, I can see people bending on that, but I can see people being very disappointed, myself included, if that can't be included. So I guess that's what we want to see. I want to see a very solid, well-rounded product. Is how I would sum it up, basically, because we've seen Live make a few improvements as it's gone by, from 14, 15, 16, but it needs to take a big leap this year. And if it can make that big leap and then keep building on the modes and innovating like it used to back in the day, I've talked about that in my 20th anniversary of live content, I should say, which is coming back. I am working on more articles and such. Back in the day, EA used to really innovate with live. With like the dunk contest, the All-Star Weekend, and online T-play. That was some pretty cool stuff they came up with.
Yeah, it was showed like an air of creativity and all that stuff, and willing to take chances on and getting features and stuff in. So I'm hoping that they can get to that sort of stage again in terms of things. So yeah, looking forward to learning more, obviously, as time goes by.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed that we do get some good news next week. And yeah, we'll speculate a little bit more about what we might think we'll see and what we want to see at EA play. But you'll have to tune in next week for that discussion.